There are wins and there are wins like this. If this doesn't define a comprehensive victory, I don't know what would, because RCB romped home and to make it 4-4 of IPL 2021. The signs are clear. The question is Salah Cup namde? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Criclytics Man vs Machine. And Butch, if you didn't understand that, let me translate that because it's the local language Kannada. And the question which the fans often ask going into every scene is Salah Cup namde, which is whether the cup will be ours this year. I want you to answer it for RCB fans.
Yes, I said it from the beginning. My love, my heart is with Bangalore, and what a performance that is. The only worry I've got now is that they shoot their bolt too early. I mean, what a performance.
Yeah, a brilliant performance, comprehensive, clinical, and there were records galore, especially for Padikkal, because he, of course, became the third youngest man to hit a century in the IPL, following Manish Pandey in 2009 and Rishabh Pant against Sunrisers Hyderabad in 2017. But more importantly, he becomes, of course, the fastest uncapped player to score 100 as well. So he was rating records. What do you make of that opening partnership? Because it's the highest ever stand RCB have ever had in their rich history.
Is that right? Yeah, wow. And you've had guys like Chris Gale opening the batting for RCB. No, it's stunning, absolutely stunning. I mean, the production line of Indian. Well, we've talked at length about sort of production line of Indian fast bowling, which is unusual. It's perhaps less unusual for the batting production line to be quite so good, but to have a guy, highly rated in Karnataka. He's been through Rahul Dravid's precision making academy in the under-19s. And he's just 18 years old and has just upstaged perhaps the greatest white ball batsman of this era. Anyway, I wasn't going to get into the Sachin versus Kohli thing because that's just tedious. But just stunning, absolutely stunning. And, I'm guessing that there's a lot of people around the world who watch a lot of IPL who are sort of going, well, who's this Padikkal guy? RCB have finally completely lost the plot, throwing this young lad in. Well, RCB knows something that most people around the world don't.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the first time, believe it or not, Butch, on Criclytics history, two players on our report card bagged a 10 and 10. The first, of course, Padikkal and Mohammad Siraj. We'll talk about the latter right now because he was quite brilliant up front, especially in the power play. 3 wickets, Buttler and Miller in particular.
Yeah. I was going to say that just knocking those two guys out makes a huge difference. Having Rawls 3 down in the power play. I mean, so often it's a cliche because it's true, but you lose 3 in the power play, you lose a lot of games. And Siraj was quite spectacular. I was going to go for him as well as my bowler of the match because I just was so impressed with the way that he's bowled at the death in the previous couple of matches. But there you go. Missed out on him, but RCB didn't miss out. The one thing about him is he's not the quickest bowler you've ever seen. But it always appears, you know how some bowlers look like they bowl really, really fast, even on TV? Jofra Archer, when he's bowling flat out, it doesn't look like the ball's coming out with any pace on it, but the speed gun says 148. Siraj, the ball seems to have so much energy as it goes off the pitch and towards the batsman, even if the speed gun is reading mid 130s. So he's a bundle of energy. He's very, very competitive. And is growing all the time. The experience he's had in the Indian national side has certainly done him the world of good.
Yeah, Siraj is fantastic, but Rajasthan Royals, again, their batting woes continue. Their captain, of course, he creamed one, and this is where I don't understand Sanju Samson at times because he plays the most flamboyant shots of pretty much anyone else in the IPL, but then he just has a brain fade from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm always very, very cautious about slamming batsmen for wild strokes in T20. I mean, that is the name of the game after all, and particularly when you're batting first on what you know is a flat surface, and you're never quite sure whether enough is enough. Batsmen can tend to kind of perhaps push the boundaries a little bit too far early on in their innings on a flat pitch because they're so worried that 220 isn't going to be enough. So I give them a bit of a break. The difficulty is that if everybody else in your top order is also failing and you're relying, on the likes of Shivam Dubey and Tawatia to kind of get you up to something competitive, then you've got a problem, haven't you? Particularly when you've got players of the caliber of Buttler and Miller knocking around in that top order. So real problems for Rajasthan Royals. They continue.
Yeah, I mean, people point fingers at Punjab and Hyderabad, still early days, but Rajasthan Royals, of course, they've lost key players and it doesn't look good for them. Let's move on and tell you what looks good in terms of Criclytics, because it's bagged a victory, a rare victory over Mark Butcher in this one. Unfortunate, and Butch will tell you the predictions and you won't like some of them. We'll get straight into, of course, the batsmen first, because both of you all went for Virat Kohli, but Devdutt Padikkal simply made Virat Kohli play second fiddle.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 52 balls for 100 for Padikkal. Staggering. And one thing about Virat Kohli, a lot of people around, particularly in England, actually, a lot of English fans don't like Virat Kohli. They kind of think he's too arrogant and he's got too much to say for himself on the field. My dealings with Virat has always been that he's incredibly warm. You run into him off when he's warming up for a game. He'll come over and say hi, call you by your first name. Always happy to sort of have a chat and a joke. When he gets on the field, he's fierce. And that's where the sort of, the perception comes. And so, and because of that, it didn't surprise me at all to see Virat just take a bit of a back seat. He knew it was Padikkal's day. Let the kid roll. Let him roll with it. I'll just be here to guide him through at the other end, make sure that he gets the strike, and allow him to have his head. He was made sure also that he didn't use up the runs, that he had enough runs in the bank to get to his 100. Perfect man to have at the other end when you're on a roll like that. And what a celebration, that he will never forget that. His first IPL 100, just 18 years of age, and he's embraced by the Indian captain, one of the legends of the game.
But you're a left-hander. Who did that resemble the most in terms of former greats, the left-hand elegance of Padikkal? People back in India are comparing him to YUVRAJ. I know you don't like comparisons yourself, but in terms of just aesthetics, who does he resemble?
Yeah, I mean, there was a bit of YUVRAJ in there. I mean, some of the more violent stuff was a little bit more HAYDEN-like, I suppose. But he does have a really beautiful sort of flow to the bat through the offside, and he's completely fearless. I mean, why wouldn't you be at 18? Big, tall man, so he packs a real punch. And if he gets anywhere near the sort of career that Yuvraj Singh had, then he'll be a very happy boy come the end of it.
Yeah, you never know, given the fact that India are lacking left-handers opening the innings. We have Shikhar Dhawan, maybe Ishan Kishan. Devdutt Padikkal's in the mix right now. But let's move on to the bowlers, because Harsha Patel got 3 wickets, and that was Criclytics' call. But the economical man was Mohammad Siraj, and that's where, of course, a point was not taken by Criclytics, and Mark would be happy because he called Uzwinder Chahal. Chahal, of course, didn't do that much in the scheme of things. Let's skip on from the bowlers because you spoke about Mohammad Siraj. All-rounders as well, both going for Glenn Maxwell, but it was Rajasthan's Rahul Tewatia who turned out the top performer of the day. Were you surprised that RR kind of got out of that hole that they were in initially of the part of the game?
No, because the pitch was so good. I mean, that's why at the halfway stage you worry. If a team gets 4 or 5 down early and then limps to 130, you think to yourself, well, maybe we've got a slight chance here of defending that, because the pitch isn't that great and nobody could really get a strike on the ball. But when the lower order comes out and bangs it all over the place after you're 4 or 5 down, you think, oh man, how flat's this going to be when their top order gets a chance to have a go on it? And that's pretty much what happened. So no, I mean, listen, Tewatia is a serious player. I mean, he ended up batting quite low in the order today, and so there's no shortage of Indian batsmen that can come in and make runs in the low end. But the problem for Rajasthan was it was just never going to be enough. I mean, we didn't think they'd win by 10 wickets, mind you, lose by 10 wickets, mind you, but even so, way short.
Yeah, and the fact that we saw it in the KKR Chennai game as well, that 220 was nearly not enough because Pat Cummins, like you said, nearly pulled off a great heist. Let's move on to, of course, the wicket-keepers and focus on that right now, because this is where it was won and lost, really. Tough one to take, Butch, because Sanju, of course, batted and he scored more than AB, who didn't bat at all. Do you take this with a pinch of salt?
Yeah, that's unfortunate, really, isn't it? But what do you do? Blame the top order for being too good. I'm quite happy, to be honest with you. I don't mind losing that one.
Yeah, okay, because at the end of the day, in a grander scheme of things, it's 12-11 right now, because both of you guys called right in terms of the result. It was Bangalore all the way, 4 zip for them right now. They've not done this in their history. Do you think they can go and do something like what Arsenal did in the Premier League, stay unbeaten and pocket the IPL, the first side to ever do that?
Well, you see, the thing is, you can't draw games in the IPL like you can in the Premier League. So being invincible is a lot more difficult in T20 cricket. Listen, I don't mind if there's a bump in the road for RCB, because I think even though you'd prefer to win and keep winning, there's always a loss around the corner in T20. It doesn't matter how good a side you are. You get on the wrong end of conditions, or a toss that becomes overly significant, and anything can happen no matter how well you're playing. And sometimes you learn one or two more things about your team in a loss than you do in a win anyway. So look, they'll lose one for sure, but they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, because it's not a fluke. The bowling lineup, which I mentioned from game one, I think I even sent out a tweet after they won the first game, that all of a sudden they have a bowling lineup that looks like it can handle itself. And yeah, they're not playing at Chinnaswamy, but they're going to have to play a lot of games in Mumbai, which is very similar in terms of scoring rates. And they've handled themselves well yet again.
Yeah, interesting times ahead for RCB fans, and exciting times ahead as well, because they play Chennai, I think, Sunday in the afternoon encounter, and that'll be a riveting clash. The Kaveri Derby's fans dub it here in South India, and of course Delhi versus RCB is the following clash after that, and that'll be a different kettle of fish, because we've known how Delhi have been so far in the last couple of years. It'll be good. Final word from you, Butch. If you had to rate RCB's performance today, Criclytics has given it a big fat 10/10. Would you disagree?
Oh no, you can always do better. If you go for 10, there's nothing to be improved upon, is there? So I give them a 9.5.
A 9.5, it's fair sharp, because at the end of the day they had RR in all sort of trouble, and 176 was a little touch bothering for RCB fans who normally don't enjoy a good evening watching their team. But today you could just put the feet up, relax, watch some sensational batting, and some batting all right. That's all we have in Criclytics Man versus Machine. Tough one for Butch to take, but a great win for Virat Kohli and company. And who knows, East Sala Cup Namde certainly beckons.